the Ask Dr. Be Good show, the show where we get to talk about the positive things happening in public education. Speaking about positive things, I have with me a very special group of scholars from Legacy Plano and Legacy Mesquite. So first, before we introduce ourselves, who can remember, what am I going to ask you at the end to do?
Ask you a question.
Ask you a question.
That's all right. Don't tell me what the question is.
Because it is the Ask Dr. Be Good podcast.
Well, I've just spent 30 minutes asking you questions. It's only fair, right? So let's get started. Who wants to chat about a special project? Because, you know, we're PBL, we're 100% PBL, project-based learning. And so people are curious. What kind of projects do we do? What's your favorite projects? Who wants to start? Kayla, you want to start?
Okay, I guess I'll go. So last year for our science class, we did like a composting project. And it was really fun because we also used that compost to grow squash. And I thought it was really interactive and fun.
And, you know, I jumped right into the PBL and forgot to find out who's with us today. So, Kayla, go ahead and start since you started.
Okay.
Name and grade and location, please.
Okay, my name's Kayla, and I'm in 8th grade, and I'm at the Plano location.
Thank you.
I'm Joaquin, and I am in 6th grade, and I'm at the Plano location.
Thank you.
I am Jesus. I'm in 8th grade, and I'm in Mesquite.
Thank you.
I'm Mason. I'm in 11th grade, and I am at the Mesquite location.
I'm Adam. I'm in 8th grade, and I'm at the Plano location.
Thank you. And thanks for coming, and thanks to your parents for bringing you down here. You know, I was so afraid you wouldn't find it, and then you all beat me here. So I can tell you were anxious to be here. All right. So, Kayla, you were talking about your project and that it was interactive. So when you say interactive, talk about how did you gather the compost, for example?
Well, first we had to research what you would put into a compost, and then we, in our groups, had to figure out who was going to bring what, how much of it, and then once we did that, you brought your stuff, and then for like our first semester, we kept adding and adding until.
And when you say stuff, what is stuff?
Well, like ingredients, sorta. So for like a compost, sometimes you need like vegetable like peels or leaves or other like kind of food items that go into it.
And then, so I've got other 8th graders here. So Adam, what happened after the compost? Then what happened?
So after we did the compost, we would use some gardens that we have, but to things with squashes, we had to research. They needed a lot of sunlight, right? So we needed to pick the optimal spot in the garden. So when we did our compost, we found a spot, and it was like direct sunlight all the day, right? So we had to plant our compost, and then we have to plant a layer. I think it was like just like dirt, right? I don't remember like the technical name, but it was like basically it was compost dirt and then a bit more compost. So then we would make 6 holes in the ground, 3 by 2. So we would plant 4 squash seeds in each hole. And I think 2 days or 3 days before the end of the school year, we would have a bunch of squash. So
What'd you do with the squash?
we donated them to the North Texas Food Bank.
All right. That's a feel good, right?
Yeah.
All right. Somebody else with a project?
Me.
Jesus?
Yeah, so at the end of the year of 7th grade, we had a project. We looked at a frog. It was really cool because the frog has a similar bone structures to ours. And we looked at it. We crushed their bones. We stretched their arms out, and we were like, ew, kind of a little bit. We dig deeper, and then we saw the heart, saw the lungs, saw everything, and then it was just like really cool to see it.
So what did you learn about lungs, for example, from the frog?
Like how it needs, it's really, really fragile. That's what I learned just from like looking at it, because I touched it a few times with my gloves, so I did it.
Were you surprised that the lungs were not like empty inside? They weren't like balloons?
No, it's just, I don't know, it's just weird and, I don't know, squishy.
Yeah. That was one of the things that I remember about looking at an animal's lungs, that, you know, for a lot of times we grew up thinking that lungs are like empty air inside, but they're not. They're all full of capillaries and arteries and all sorts of things. So Anybody else have a frog experience?
Yeah, we had a frog experience as well.
We dissected frogs as well.
What did you learn from that?
We learned how the parts and what they do for the frog. So like the lungs give it they can bring in oxygen, and like the heart pumps blood and stuff. So we learned about the different parts.
Did it make you understand yourselves better?
I feel like it helped us understand like our anatomy better as well, because the frog isn't much different than the human. Just like its heart's different, but I mean like internal parts is just the rearrangement of them is different than the humans.
But they
So-
still needed lungs and heart
exactly.
and
They
kidneys. and
still
all
breathe air, so
that. Good. Okay. Mason, a favorite project?
My favorite project is the one that we're doing right now.
Is that the one you had to shave for?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, tell us about
the
it.
robber barons. So we are doing a radio station just like this one, and we're going to
convenient.
one of us in the group is going to have to dress up as the robber baron themselves, which I had to choose that part. We're also going to have 3 other people do a separate part. One of them will be interviewing the robber baron. One of them's going to hold like a boomstick, just like give it that effect. And then one of them's going to be the recorder. And then we're going to ask questions that were a part of that time era. So like, what made you want to build a monopoly? Because now monopolies are illegal, but back in the day, they were the first people who started to do monopolies, was Rockefeller and Vanderbilt and stuff like that. So that's just like one of the many questions. How did you discover kerosene? How did you invent a way to drill for oil? And just many more questions like that. And I mean, to be honest, we haven't even done it yet, but we're about to, and I'm super excited.
I can
cannot
tell.
wait.
I can tell. And you said that you had to shave for your part?
Yes, ma'am. I had to get rid of my sideburns, but I got to keep my mustache and my little beard down here to kind of like a little goatee.
Sort of getting really into your part. So this is, what class is this?
This is humanities. This will be social studies and English 3 in one class. So
That's
you
cool.
have really fun with
All
that.
right. I look forward to seeing the outcome. Joaquin.
My favorite project was at the end of the school year, and it was a lemonade war. We were selling lemonade, different types of lemonade, for the school. It was, I forget for what it was about,
It was
but
based on a book, right?
it was based on a book, Lemonade War.
Mm-hmm. And you actually had to sell? Did you
Not really sell.
You were outside. I remember you guys were set up outside,
Mm-hmm.
different stalls.
We didn't really have to like sell it.
Was it whoever bought more, like whoever had less cups at the end?
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Pretty much.
cool.
And so, how did your lemonade do? Your group's lemonade?
We did good.
Did you win?
Mostly about how you need a certain amount of everything or nothing won't work. And we learned teamwork, like how to make it.
Okay.
It was mostly about working together.
So, how did you decide how to do your lemonade?
We decided to do a little bit more sweeter than the other team because we had different teams.
Okay.
Did you win?
Yes, it's okay to say. It's not bragging. if it's
Yeah.
true. You won.
We did.
Did you have different
So-
flavors of lemonade?
Like raspberry, cherry, I think was one.
That
We
sounds
wanted
good.
to
really
do
good.
pomegranate, but we couldn't. It was pretty fun.
Okay, well, good. We like having interactive, and we encourage our teachers to do interactive projects with you, not just because they're interactive, but because it engages your interest more. So I'm glad to hear that you have favorite projects. So let's talk about how we differentiate our instruction, because part of what I also asked our staffs to do is to differentiate their instruction, to make sure that they don't, treat you all the same, because you're not all the same. And so, Adam, how do you feel that the instruction has been differentiated for you?
So, as in what? Like,
Accelerated? I should use
okay,
that word.
so I'm in 8th grade, right? But I'm taking accelerated courses, so I'll be taking 9th grade English, 9th grade math, and 9th grade science, right? So it's English 1, algebra, and biology. So when because we didn't start at the beginning of the school year, we had to get our schedules going. So I think maybe 2 or 3 weeks into, we got into those classes. But even though we still felt welcome, because you might think, because you're most people get bullied because they're different, right? But they made just because like we're in a younger grade, they didn't make us feel different or like outcasts. They would allow us to like be friends with them. You know, it's not something like
So what I'm hearing you say is that as an 8th grader, you went into English 1 with ninth graders.
ninth graders.
And
I felt like a ninth graders in the class. They
All right.
didn't make me feel like I'm somebody different than what I am. You know,
okay,
so I really enjoyed that.
good. I'm glad to hear that. That's good to know.
Yeah, pretty.
That,
It's good.
You know, that all that anti-bullying stuff actually is paying off.
Hey.
Hey,
Hey.
Kayla, are
Well-
you going into accelerated classes?
Yeah, I'm in the same classes as Adam is as well, with English 1, Algebra 1, and biology. And I say like the same thing, that everyone is like welcoming, and like the teachers are also really welcoming as well, and treat us the same, not like the same, but kind of like not like we're different or weird or like anything like that.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
So weird is describe it.
You know, our teachers are having to get used to that because they not only have 8th graders coming into 9th grade classes, but we have 9th graders
Going into 10th grade classes.
Well-
and 11th grade classes.
taking dual credit.
And
right?
college, yeah.
College starting in 9th grade for some kids. And so our teachers are having to think in a multi-level way about how to instruct students.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anybody else accelerated or differentiated?
Actually, I was supposed to take world history this year, but they sent me back social studies. I don't know why. It's like I'm really good at world history. And to be honest, I feel when I went into their class, because I went in there once, they knew all about like the past, how people were, how like basically how they the economy is, the politicians, the geography, all of that, and they were like, it's like, do you know? And I'm like, yeah. So I feel kind of weird in there. So
Well, just give it time.
Yeah.
You know? One of the things I read recently, and I think it's true, is that sometimes we only know we're learning when we feel uncomfortable. Right? Think about that.
Ain't that a thing? No.
Ain't that
Think
the
about
truth?
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
ain't that
hey.
the truth? Yeah.
Well, in that case, I'm always learning.
Okay.
Well, okay. And so what about you, Joaquin?
I take accelerated learning. I actually took a test this summer to see if I should go to 7th grade math, because on my final score, I only missed one question.
Good for
And
you.
it was really
job.
surprising.
Good for you. Now, I know, Joaquin, that you've been with us quite a few years and that you've taken advantage of some of our GT offerings. Can you talk a little bit about, for example, when we start our Saturday schools, what happens with GT students?
Well, GT students, we go into a separate room and we all do accelerated projects based on our, skill level of learning.
That's right, because what we were finding a few years back was that GT students love school. And so a lot of times you guys wanted to come on Saturday, even if it was just for, remedial, getting ready for that that test at the end of the year. And so,
That
but
test.
we didn't really think that was the best environment for our GT students on Saturday. So because there were so many of you, we decided to give you a separate Saturday school where we were able to reach you at a different level and to give you engineering projects. We have, some of you may remember, engineering is elementary projects. Anybody remember the bridge project?
Oh yeah.
We did that every year.
Like disappointed.
So,
Like,
so the bridge,
that
the
bridge.
curriculum comes from
PTSD.
the Museum of Boston. It's a highly regarded curriculum. Our teachers love to teach it, and so we do limit when they can teach what, so that we don't do it every year anymore, so that we can be much more structured. But so we have GT Saturday school, and then during the summer we send. I know that we have an engineering GT school that we send our middle school.
Is it text prep?
Yes.
Text prep. Yeah, I remember that.
And so, have you been yet?
Yes, I've been there for 2 years.
Okay, so talk a little bit about
Okay.
that experience.
So we started not this summer, like the fall, like 2 summers ago. So the summer of seventh grade, yeah. So we did year one, and it's basically just like it was engineering. We learned I think it was ninth. It was like seventh, eighth, and ninth graders all in one like class. So it was like we'd learn ninth grade stuff because they couldn't teach ninth grade or seventh grade stuff because they'd fall asleep, right? So so in engineering we would learn ninth grade engineering. Well, ninth grade engineering, we would learn problem solving, robotics. So we would make robots, and what we did was we did like a sumo thing where like there was like a circle on the ground. It was like I think 15 inches in diameter. So you'd have to like push the other robot out of the circle. Most of them broke because a lot of force on force. They like snap and like
Fail forward.
yeah. But I mean, some people would still win because like they pushed a part out of the circle. So, and then the last class was logic, right? The dreaded class is how we like people in text prep didn't like the class because it was very, I don't want to say difficult, but it was different than normal classes. As in, it wasn't like you use logic in math, so it was like if this then this, but so it's very complicated to explain, but to learn it's not as complicated.
So I think they held the classes on a college campus.
Yes, the first year was at Richland, and the second year was at Brookhaven College.
Okay. And it's a 4-year program?
4-year program, yes, ma'am.
Is it, if I'm remembering correctly,
You get
Is it- a major university from Ivy League university sort of subsidizes this? I'm trying to remember. That sound familiar? No?
that a major university would do it? I don't think so.
Well,
I don't remember.
I think that they run the program to make sure it's across the country.
It's like for fresh. I don't really know.
It's
but
a 4-year program,
yes,
right?
ma'am.
Engineering
And you
program.
get a high school credit, elective credit. So when you have an
Ah.
elective, then you can skip the class, so you don't have to take the class.
So you can imagine how great that would look on your college essay.
Yes. So like let's say I have 63 college credits, but I have 67 high school credits because I have plus the 63 dual credits, which count both. So it's pretty cool. So we can skip classes. So we can skip classes. So I mean, like, what more can I ask?
So Joaquin, you have that to look forward to.
Hmm?
You have that to look forward to. The
Mm-hmm.
text prep. Kayla, are you in that?
Yeah, I also went for the 2 years.
I only
as
wish
well.
that was in 5th grade.
You can't go back. You have to only move forward. Well, but then you get college opportunity, right? So, Mason, talk a little bit about your college, your dual credit experience, and how many hours you'll be graduating with next year, you think?
My dual credit experience has been very, very like, relaxing. Very just, it's like, that it's there. So it's like, you feel the tension, but when you do it for like 2 to 3 years, you just kind of get used to it, and it just kind of subsides and just kind of goes away in your body. You just get used to it and just sit down and do your work, and do it to the best of your ability and finish it. And I think with how much I've done, I should be with 42 hours is what I should be with. I'm going to try and go for more, of course, but at the moment it should be 42. To be honest, the work is really, it's not simple by no means, but for me personally, I've always been fascinated with technology. It's growing, ever growing, and especially in the economy that we're in today and the world that we live in today, it's always needed. There's always have to be a supply for someone to play with technology. And so I fit that card perfectly, and I just think that it'll be easy to, get into a career pathway in technology.
So, what pathway are you in?
I am in the information technology pathway. I am the first year I took was Principles of Information Technology. Last year I took telecommunications, and this year I'm in web design. And my favorite class by far was telecommunications, but
Wow.
I haven't been in web design yet. Telecommunications is just fun for me because you get to learn about every single way and route that the technology works in. So it's like you get to learn how, like if you're playing a game or something, I know a lot of kids can relate to games.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah, it's just like, we all, I even play games myself. you can you learn how it goes from the Wi-Fi router straight to your console or vice versa, and you learn how everything connects. You learn what a local area network is, and you learn what a world area network is. You get to learn everything that you see in in games and TVs and just everything like that. You get to learn how everything's built, basically.
So you have Mr. Walker, who
Mhm.
has a master's in IT, and so he's able to be also an adjunct for, I don't know if it's El Centro or Eastfield. Do you know?
I believe it is Eastfield.
Eastfield?
It's Eastfield.
Okay. And so he not only gets paid for being at Legacy, but he also gets a stipend for teaching a dual credit class. So you guys have a college professor as part of
Yeah.
Legacy. And so one of the things that you and I had talked about that you're going to try to do is get at least one, if not two certificates that we offer through IT.
Yes, ma'am.
The Microsoft and
Yes,
then
ma'am.
the
Cisco.
Cisco, because that will increase your job opportunities.
Oh yeah.
And chances to get them as well.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, how about you, Jesus? What pathway are you going to go in? You know?
I honestly don't know. It's like
Because we have health science and we have IT. What do you think?
Don't we also have
I
business?
asked my teacher. I asked her many questions before I chose because I want to be careful about it.
Sure.
But right now I'm more heading towards IT because I'm really interested on game designing. Yeah, on the
Yeah, you eighth graders. This is your year to decide. We give you overview of health science, overview of information technology, so that you can make that decision in an informed way.
Yeah.
So good for you for asking lots of questions.
What aspect of game design do you want to go into?
That one's hard. My friend, he does game designing. He likes to do racing ones. Like
Oh.
yes.
he likes, yeah, he
Mhm.
likes
Like
to
the
do
Mario
Ferraris.
Kart kind of vibe? Oh.
Yeah.
My friend wants to design stuff for Fortnite for some reason.
So I'll ask each one of you. Adam, you want IT or health science?
I rather go into health science pathway.
We do have a business pathway. Not many kids pick it.
Yeah.
matter of fact,
I mean,
because mostly
I wonder why.
the health science and the IT tend to be very engaging.
Yes,
Can I
ma'am.
say something? Sure. Actually, business will help me if I go to gaming because I can own my own store,
You can make
Trade.
your own business.
make some games that for other people to buy.
I would say that the IT pathway would be a good foundation for any career. The business would be another great
Yeah.
foundation for any career. So
What I did personally was I had information technology as my pathway, and the Mesquite campus, they offered business as like an elective class. So I went into electives, and I did that as my electoral class, and it was phenomenal. You get to you're learning both sides of the same coin, essentially. It's like you get to learn how to market yourself out there. And then for information technology, you're learning what to market out there. So it's like it's a hand-in-hand type of thing, and it works really well with one another. So it's like,
did you take the virtual business course
oh, yes. Yes, I did. I actually forgot about that one.
about economics and so forth? When
Yes, ma'am.
Because I walk the campuses every week and I've seen that taught, and that sounds really
It's
interesting.
really fun. Oh, yeah, certainly. That's, one of just the best classes ever. You get to learn everything that you're possibly wanting to know, about
Well,
economics and stuff.
I'm. It's important that you all understand economics, and
Most definitely.
and I think she also goes over taxes and sales tax and all of that. So, Kayla, what do you want to?
I think I would pick health science, the
Okay.
health science pathway.
And I can understand sort of why your sister was our valedictorian last year, and she graduated 52 hours of college, and she went to Johns Hopkins on a full ride, which is a medical.
Working, yeah.
So,
Get everything.
so you have a good model there to follow if you want. Joaquin, what do you think you want?
I don't really know.
Not you. Well,
Yeah,
it's
well,
good that
start-
we have the overview classes for you.
They both sound very good. I mean, honestly, I want to be a biochemist or a businessman or something that can bring in a lot of advantages.
Money.
Well,
Don't forget about
be passionate about the job, and then if it happens to pay well too,
Oh,
then,
yeah.
that's gravy. But Try not to go to a job that you don't like.
Yeah, do
it.
No,
Yeah.
Best
no,
advice.
by all means, I don't mean it just like, okay, that job
That's a
makes me
lot of
money.
money to
I'm gonna
choose
go
college.
Mhm.
I've heard a lot of people say go into a job that you want to love, not a job that you dread. It's
Oh,
always
yeah.
something you want to do that you're passionate about.
Joaquin?
If I may quote a movie line,
to. Which movie?
the B movie. If you do a small job but very good, then crap. If you do a small job very well, then it makes a big difference.
There you go.
Mhm.
Words to live by.
I remember that.
So we're getting towards the end of the show. Remember I told you 30 minutes equals 5 minutes? Already getting
Math
there.
checks out.
So I'm gonna go around the room and give you a chance to ask me a question. So who wants to start? Who has a question for me?
I'll start.
All right, Adam.
When did you sit down and you were like, so I'm gonna make my school a college-ready school?
Good question. When I was first doing this in 2010 or 11, I had been a college professor for several years, and so not only did I want to put in what research said were the best practices, like PBL and dual language and dual credit, but really, when I was sitting in my chair in 2010 and 11 writing this stuff, the legislation had not opened it up for us to have as much college as we have now. It was during the first couple years that we were open that the legislators changed the law to let us be early college high school without having to apply to be that, because that takes a while.
Yeah,
And
I can
so-
imagine.
So as soon as the law changed,
You were on it.
we were on it. That's why your
You guys
sister
jumped right on that.
your
you mean-
sister was able to graduate with 52 hours, even though she started in 10th grade. Now think of what the kids starting in ninth grade
grade
can
could
do.
be, yeah,
Except
imagine.
like you guys next year.
Except if they're slack.
Thank you,
but I
Adam.
mean,
Mason?
Where do you see the whole identity of legacy in 5 years?
In 5 years, I see us as having a solid K-12, maybe pre-K. I'd like to put in for pre-K and get the kids in even earlier.
wow.
Room is an issue right now, as you know. But I'd like a solid pre-K-12 to where, the only kids that we're bringing in are the pre-Kers. And everybody else stays put. We might lose an occasional kid or two because they're moving somewhere and, dad's job or mom's job moves. But just a solid base of kids who are there to have their whole career there. And because if we can get them long enough, then we can get them to be successful and,
Of course.
and half
Of
of their
course,
college
most
at least
definitely.
already paid for. So thanks for asking that. Jesus?
How do you ensure that kids are college ready?
Well, that's my constant work. It's my constant work with the directors. We have a slogan that preparing elementary age children for ninth grade college. And so one of the ways we do that is by helping our staff know, hey, we got to start that college readiness behavior in elementary. You can't suddenly become college ready at the end of 8th grade, right?
Yeah.
No. And so you feel the pressure. For example, in rotations, we give you the TSI prep, PSAT prep, SAT prep.
When I took the PSAT.
Yeah. So I mean, we start bringing what used to be something only for 11th graders down into even 7th grade.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have to start early, and that's how we do it, by starting in the early grades. Thanks for
That's a
asking.
blessing, too.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a big blessing.
Joaquin?
When you joined up with Legacy, what did you hope for it to be?
I hope for it to be the premier STEM PBL dual language school of the world. And with students like you, we're getting there. I don't have to have an empire, but I do have to have kids who graduate 100%, going to college or trade school or some post-secondary activity. Now they even count going into the military as a post-secondary activity. So we just want everybody to land somewhere successfully after 12th grade, to where it prepares them to be a successful adult with a successful living wage. You know what that term is, living wage now? We don't think that adults who, for example, work at some of the jobs that it doesn't pay enough money for them to be comfortable. And we want you to graduate and go on to a post-secondary activity that lets you have a comfortable career so that you can spend quality time with family, not worrying about money. How's that for a goal? Ayla?
What are your plans to improve Legacy on the Mesquite and Plano campuses?
That's why I walk every classroom every week. I go in there because I look for patterns and trends in what is working and what maybe needs to be tweaked. And so I am in constant communication with campus leadership, your directors, to help them if they need that support. Some need less support than others because some are less new, right? And so my total goal and job is to make sure that your school staffs are there to support your needs to meet your goal, and I'm hearing that it is your goal, of graduating high school ready for college and career. Would that be a true statement?
They're certainly doing a good job. They
Well,
really are.
I appreciate that, but again, can't do it alone.
Yeah,
course,
my
course.
job,
Definitely
my
not.
job is just, you've seen that person at the circus where they have all these plates
Mm-hmm.
and they keep all their plates up. My job is just keep those plates going so they don't fall.
And we're the
Yeah.
plates.
The last person
Okay, I hadn't thought of you being a plate, but okay.
the last person I saw do that broke all the plates.
Okay, well, luckily it wasn't at Legacy.
Yeah.
So,
I'm not
any
broken.
any last statement about this year? How do you?
Looking forward to it.
You're looking forward to it. Okay.
Certainly, I can agree with
Yeah.
that.
Well, you know what?
Appreciate
I asked your campus leadership to send me sort of their funnest kids, and I can see they did that. I can see that you were very comfortable chatting with us here. Matter of fact, Adam, I think you're going to take over my MC job.
I mean, I was.
I
Looking,
hardly needed to be here with you here. So
I was trying.
I like
No.
that. I love, and I can see you guys have been with us since almost the beginning, and that's what project-based learning does. It makes people so comfortable. It makes kids comfortable talking to other adults, right? You've presented so many times by the time you've been with Legacy several years, right? Because you do
We've been here for
projects
7 years.
Yeah.
Like since the very beginning.
since the very beginning. So how many projects have you presented?
Too many to count. I don't have that many fingers.
I agree. I agree.
I don't have that many fingers.
And so what happens when you have to present up in front of your peers and other adults?
You'll just get used
It
to
gets
it.
you ready to
Yeah.
present. for
That's right.
others.
And so
Sure does.
this is what PBL does to kids. It makes you comfortable speaking. It makes you comfortable speaking in front of other adults.
Just makes everything easier, I guess.
You know, all I can do is point to you. and
Speeds
say
up the
that's right.
process. It sure does.
And so, how will that impact you? Well, when you go to a job interview, you're more comfortable. When you go before your college interviews, more comfortable. There's so many outcomes, positive outcomes that come from a project-based learning environment. So, thank you for letting us show you off a little bit. This is the type of child that we're looking to develop at Legacy, and certainly you've made us proud today. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
well, and I hope that you will share with your friends at school about this opportunity, because this won't be the last time we'll have kids on. We'll want
Nice.
to bring other kids on. and
Wait,
so-
I got another question. Are we gonna do something similar to this? Are we gonna start doing more projects like this? Or
Oh, you like this, huh?
yeah.
Well, we'll talk off air about how you guys can do more of this at your campus.
I definitely
Okay.
want to show this opportunity off.
All right. Well, I think your parents will. Social media being what it is, it will not be hard to share this with
It'll
all
spread
your
like
friends and relatives.
wildfire.
So,
There are no extinguishers.
thank you again for doing this. We have, we'll capture this and we'll be able to show you off, not only online, but through other social media outlets.
Hooray.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for
thank
having
you.
us.
Thank you for tuning in to the Dr. Be Good Show. For more information on Legacy Preparatory Charter Schools, visit our website, www.legacypca.com, or call 469-249-1099. And remember, like us on Facebook, where we stream live weekly Tuesdays at 3 p.m.